All right. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and put the slideshow up. This is going to be a little bit awkward because we're going to be toggling back and forth between the slideshow and various parts of Google Drive to show you how to do these things. So be patient, bear with us. And we will, like I said, we'll have a good long Q&A at the end, but we want to get a chance to just go through some stuff first to get the, some of the basics out of the way. And as I also said, we're going to be using you guys a little bit as guinea pigs because you're our best friends, and so we're trying to test sort of using a little more interactivity because we're all really distracted right now, and it's hard to pay attention. So we're trying to figure out ways to make the webinars a little more interactive so that they so that folks can pay a little bit better attention. If you think of questions during the webinar or during the sort of slideshow portion, you can put them into the chat and maybe, Mish, if you could gather those so that we can make sure to ask them at the end, that would be fabulous. But please don't try to answer each other's questions just because it can end up being kind of chaotic and distracting from the speakers. So just to give you guys a little bit of context, I'm Carol. I'm the Executive Director of MCAN, and we have realized over the last week and a half that folks are having to move their work online and on the phone, and we wanted to just share a little basic information on some tools that might make your lives easier as you do that. So today we're going to talk through the Google Suite, and we'll talk a little bit about Google Drive in general, and then we'll go through Docs, Slides, Calendar, and Hangout. So folks, probably all of you on the phone know this, but these are our stock slides that we start presentations with. MCAN exists because of chapters like you. We have 58 chapters that represent 108 towns. 59 chapters that represent 109 towns. We just brought Lowell on board. We give you guys a voice at the state level. We gather best practices from you in order to share them with other organizations and share them within the network. And we are here because climate change is happening. It's happening here in Massachusetts, and it's impacting our lives already. The good news is that local action has always been the leader on climate change, whether that's town meeting or city council or starting out with education and ending up with policy. The reason that we focus on the local level is because that is where the best ideas happen from folks like you guys. And we know that we have the tools to make a better world. We just need to build the will for system change. Basically our how we're feeling about things, particularly at this moment in time more than ever, is that just changing the way that we make our electricity is not enough. We need to dismantle the systems that got us here in the first place, and we need to think about how to make a system that works for everybody instead of just for a few. These pictures are from a Mass Power Forward slideshow. I really liked them, so I borrowed the slide. And basically the point is there are times like right now where community is extra important, and I think one of the things that I love about the work that all of you are doing is that it builds community. and builds our connection to each other. So obviously collective action is what's needed to stop climate change, and as we're seeing right now, collective action is what's needed to stop coronavirus as well, which means that we need to organize. We need to get collectively pulled together in order to be the big fish. So what we're going to go through today is a couple tools that can help keep your team productive. We're assuming that you guys already have some kind of a team, so this is not about building your team, it's about helping them to keep working on what you're working on. So within Google Drive, we're going to talk about Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Calendar, and Hangouts. Our next webinar, which I think we're going to end up doing, we had originally scheduled it for tomorrow, but we wanted to actually we realized that we should be more responsive to you guys and get a little time to adjust based on today. So we want to do a thing about basically how to do online get-togethers. So whether that's via Hangouts or free conference call or Zoom, we will do that next week. So I know that everybody got an email from Mish telling you how to make a Google account, which I'm going to go ahead and assume that you guys actually managed to do. I hope I am correct. So I'm going to start out just talking a little bit about Google Drive. And basically it's online storage where you can keep many, many things. You can keep docs, you can keep slides, you can keep spreadsheets, you can keep pictures, you can keep all kinds of things. It's a lot of free storage. They give 15 gigabytes per person, and once you have your Google account, you have a Drive account. So I hope folks are logged in to their Google account. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. And it also, one of the nice things about Drive is that it gives folks real-time access to whatever it is that you're working on or that you just stuck in there. So you can use it on your laptop. You can also use it as an app on your phone. One of the settings that you can use is to be able to work offline on things. So you might be we'll talk about that when we get to docs, but it's a really handy setting. And you can have different folders for different teams within your Drive. So what I'm going to do, this is where it gets dicey. I am going to get out of the slideshow and I'm going to go into a Chrome tab. So I'm in incognito because I thought it would be helpful to watch me sign in. So, oops, if I can do it right. So here I am, and in Google, right, which I got to by just going to google.com, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in to my account. So I'm going to sign in to my work one just because I want to make sure that folks are getting something that's sort of the right view. So you can see that my work account popped up there. Hopefully I remember my password. All right, so I am now signed in as me, which you can see because I have a little icon up here on the right that I've just moused over. So this little square of squares is my Google Apps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that in order to get to Drive. So this is all the various apps that I can use because I have a Google account. So I just want to show you guys what's on here. We mostly use the ones that we're going to talk through with you guys, but there are a lot of options of things you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Drive. And you guys will see my drive, which, as we always laugh about in the office, is sort of this never-ending Russian doll where you open up each layer and discover that there's a folder underneath that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder to show you guys how to do this. So you see this New button here on the upper left, and there are a variety of things that I can do here. So I can upload a file, I can make a folder or upload a folder, I can make a doc, I can make a sheet, I can make a slide or a slide deck, and we'll talk through all of that with you as well. And then there are a whole bunch of other things, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and make a folder. And I'm going to call it Chapter Leader Webinar. And I apologize for the typing noise. I'm sure you guys are not happy with that. But I'm going to create this. And then I'm going to go ahead and share it with some folks. So this right here is my sharing button. I can also get a link to share it, or I can throw it in the trash, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share it with, let's see, why don't I share it with, I'm going to share it with Ted's email address that you guys will see at the end, because he has very generously offered to help anybody who's having any trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and put Ted on there, and I can add other people. And then right here, I can say that he could just look at it, or he can organize the folder, he can add documents to it, and he can edit the folder. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as that he can do whatever he wants. And then basically, I send it. Now, I will say, just so that folks know, that sometimes those emails, so it just sent an email to Ted saying, Carol Oldham has shared a folder with you. Sometimes those emails go missing. So there is also a way, which I'm going to show you guys, where you can send an email to somebody from your personal email account, and that's this way. So you would get the shareable link, and you can either just copy it right there. You can set your permissions here. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Basically, so this is set because we have our domain, Massachusetts Climate Action Network, is, you know, everybody who has a Massachusetts Climate Action Network email, you know, it can be so that everybody who has that can view or everybody can edit, but what you'll need to do is go down to More. And probably what you want to do is say anyone with the link can access it. The reason that I would do that is that sometimes people have more than one email account or something like that, and this just makes their life easier. If it's something really sensitive, like a budget or something that you really don't want, that you really want to be very careful about who takes a look at it, you can say specific people and then share it that way. So right now you can see, so also a warning to you guys, sometimes I've noticed recently that sometimes, I think Google has been resetting some of their stuff remotely, and so sometimes permissions will change and people will get changed to view only, for instance, from being able to organize something. So just keep an eye on your settings. But now basically I could email you guys the link, let me actually do that. I'm going to put it in the chat. And that way, you guys will be able to, so anybody who clicks on that link can get into that folder. Why don't you guys try that? And let's see what happens. How's it going? Are folks able to get into it? There's nothing in there, so it's not particularly thrilling. Interesting. I'm just seeing from John that that you don't see the link in chat. It should be just above your, let me try sending it again. John, do you see the link now? It should be the most recent thing in the chat. Great. Oh, John, so if you look, that's interesting. What is your, John, when you look at your chat, does it say to everyone in there? Can you nod or shake your head? Uh-oh. And of course, this is when the camera kicks out. Or maybe it's me. I'm not sure. Okay, it says all participants. Interesting. Okay, we'll do a little troubleshooting after this. Yeah. We'll do that towards the end. Let me see if I've done most of what I wanted to do. In Drive. Yeah, I think that's most of everything that we wanted to cover with that. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rebecca to go through Google Docs.
Great, thanks Carol, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. My name is Rebecca Wintrick-Knox. I am our buildings organizer. I'm going to just talk briefly about how we can use Google Docs as one of the features that Carol mentioned in Drive as a tool to organize remotely. So basically what Google Docs is, it's very similar to Microsoft Word, word processing. It's a way to essentially type memos or other things that you're working on, but instead of having it saved only to your computer, it's saved to your Google Drive, meaning that anyone can access it remotely. So that's really why it's such a useful tool. It allows folks to simultaneously edit the same document, even if they're in different places, and it's easy to share with others that, again, aren't with you physically. So ways that you might ways that you might use it are to have notes from meetings. Often for our MCAN check-in meetings, we'll have a Google Doc note with, a Google Doc with notes from every meeting so we can look back and see what we talked about, say, last week, and folks can add different things because we all have permission to edit the document. It's helpful when you're thinking about virtually brainstorming, say brainstorming ideas for a campaign. It's a great way for folks that might not be, say, on the call that you're having to check back in later and see what was talked about and reflected. It's also a good way to think about putting together a statement from your group. For instance, MCAN issued our DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity statement. And a way that we did that was by working on it in Google Docs so that we could allow multiple partners and board members and so on permission to edit and suggest comments. It's also helpful if you're thinking about sending out an email blast to put together a draft, again, as you would in any other word processing platform, but to give folks the opportunity to, again, share and comment on it. So I think that's my quick overview of what Google Docs is. I think it's always easier to see something being done rather than just talked about. So Carol is going to take us back to, we can go into maybe the chapter later webinar folder that you guys all now have access to. Wonderful. And I have an image in there, and we're going to go to New in the upper left corner, and then select Google Docs. Great. And as you can see, because this is already in a shared folder, all of you guys already have access to it. So here you can see that there's basically very similar. We can title it something like, Carol, I'll give you creative permission to title it whatever you want. Yeah, that makes sense. Notes from our webinar. Great. And you can see, if you haven't used this feature before, you can see it's very similar to, say, Word or to Pages in terms of how you can edit it. Exactly. So you can type things, and you can change the formatting by going to the toolbar at the top there. You can say whether or not you'd like to change the font. Yes, exactly. Make it larger if you want to really emphasize something. Wonderful. Thanks, Carol. You can change the text color as you'd be able to, in Word. And you can also bold, italicize, underline things. Oh, and that's also helpful. You can also insert images, which is, again, an easy way for many folks to have access to the same, let's say, image or other document. And just to quickly recap what Carol already went over with Drive, so sharing on Docs has the exact same format. So you go to the upper right-hand corner, press that share button, and then again, you can see whether, so right now, anyone with the link can edit it. We have the choice, we have the opportunity there to copy the link and to chat it to folks directly, or we can add it. We could add other people by going down to the bottom there as we do TED. So a very similar format. And this has the exact same format as Drive in terms of being able to toggle between who's able to view and who's able to edit. And this is, again, really helpful when we often use it when one person is brainstorming something and would like to have notes or feedback from other members on our team, because they can go in and make suggestions and changes. Yeah, and there's also some tools up there to allow you to format, insert other things. I think definitely worth playing around with a little bit. Awesome. So I'm going to hand things over to Mish to talk about Google Slides.
Can you hear me? Are you able to?
Sorry, my microphone got confused, but you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. That was really awesome. And learning to use Google Slides, a lot of those skills will be really useful as well. So Google Slides are like PowerPoint or Keynote, which you'll have on your computer, but is a really great way to collaborate with others on a presentation that you might give to your chapter remotely. So the staff of MCAN made what you're looking at right now on Google Slides. We could all add and edit from our own homes. It was really a great way to collaborate and split up the work to create this webinar. So yeah, you can use it to make presentations, but if you're giving webinars to your chapters and why you want to use it, you can simultaneously edit, you can make slides, and how you might use it is notes from meetings, also virtual brainstorms. You can upload PowerPoints as well, so if you can go back into the folder, and if you have a PowerPoint on your computer that you want others to look at, you can upload PowerPoint or keynotes that you have and turn them into Google Slides, and your collaborators will be able to look at it. So if we want to look at how to create a Google slide, so we can go back to our original drive, and in our little folder, yeah, you can either click on that app, you can press Google Slides, or you can also click the new on the left side and make a new Google slide. That's fine. And then you'll share it with everyone. All right, so here is kind of a basic template. You can see on the right there are different themes if you want it not to just be white background with black text. And then you can name the presentation where you would name a Google Doc as well, so the upper left. Great. And then you can add a title within the presentation exactly, and so you can click in several boxes and type what you would do on a normal presentation. And then you can, on the upper left, right below the title, there's going to be a plus sign or a little drop-down box. So a little bit further, yeah. And that would make a new slide. So you can kind of do that and then add the next page, next slide, and do things like that. And then this is already shared with all of you. So if someone else wanted to add to this slideshow, they could also click next and add their content. Yes, and then you can do the same with the Google Doc. You can either on the bottom there, you can type in exactly who you want to share it with, or you can get that copy link and send it to people so that email doesn't get lost in their inboxes. Yes, and then, yeah, importing slides. If you have a PowerPoint that you've already created and it's stored on your computer, you can import slides to bring them onto the cloud as well. Great. Okay, so that is slides. We'll definitely answer questions after we do two more things. So next is Google Calendar. So Google Calendar is an online calendar. I'm sure a lot of you use Apple Calendar or like a physical calendar, but using Google Calendar is useful because you can share events like this webinar or calls or other meetings. And also, we were talking about how the docs emails kind of get buried in emails. When something is on a calendar, it can't get lost in that inbox. So it'll give you a notification when an event is happening, and you'll have the information right there. So when you want to, oh yeah, so you might use it, so inviting others to an online meeting, there is a really handy way that you can invite them just to a Google Hangout, but there's also ways that we'll talk more about next week about how to invite people and use free conference call or Zoom or things like that. So you can put kind of those links in a calendar event. You can also schedule one-on-one conversations. You can put in your phone number, and you can also put in your tasks or reminders just for yourself. So if you want to go to Google Calendar, so in the same kind of vein, you can go to Google or Gmail, or you can type in calendar.google.com. And you can also access it from that 3x3 grid. Yeah, great little app. So this is Carol's calendar. Great. So the default settings, this is the schedule setting. So the default setting is going to be the week long. So then kind of right on the upper right, you can see day, and you can also change that to week, just so you can see like what's happening in the whole week. If you want to create you can also see the month. If you have a monthly chapter meeting that you want to schedule, you can press, if you have a meeting on the 4th Thursday of every month, you can go back there, but you have a meeting, you can press create on the upper left again, or you can click on the day, and then you would put in the name and the time of an event, chapter meeting. You can add guests. You can type in all of the people that you want to invite, and thank you. Yeah, and if you click more options, it'll give you a few more things. Maybe on the bottom right, so that just gives you a little bit more control over all of the things that you want to talk about. So you can name the event, set the date and the time. You can you can put in the location. You can say notifications. Yeah, so you can put in exactly when that meeting is. You can invite guests on the right, and let's see, anything else. You can also, right underneath the location is conferencing, and in conferencing you can either just click Google Hangouts, or you can, so that will put in a Google Hangouts link that Rebecca will talk about in just a second. So you have to press save, you can just close out. And anyone that you've invited will see that and have that event in their calendar, and will be able to know all the info about that specific event.
Awesome. Thanks, Mish. Another useful feature of Google Calendar is that you're able to share your calendar with other folks in your network and also add their calendars to your calendar. So if you work really closely with people and you want to make sure that you don't, say, schedule something when you're both busy, that's a good way to figure out how to do that. So just touching on Google Hangouts, so Mish briefly mentioned this. Google Hangouts is essentially a chat feature within Google Suite, and it gives you text, video, and audio options. So it's basically like texting on your phone or calling on your phone, but again, it's all online, it's all within Google. So you're able to access it whenever you have Wi-Fi. And it's a really helpful way to stay connected. It's very similar to email, but it's faster, it's instant messaging. So you might want to use it to stay connected about things that are happening, sort of very present moment-to-moment events, things that you don't want to necessarily draft an email about. It's a useful way to plan events with a group. You can add multiple folks to the same chat to make sure that you're on the same page with other people about what you have in mind. And again, you can also use the video and audio features to actually have a group call all within your Gmail suite. So some limitations are that you need a Google account, and you need to make sure that the folks that you're attempting to chat with also have Google accounts. But that's not a problem for you guys because you've all made a Google account ahead of this. And you also need to keep in mind that if you're going to do a video call on Google Hangouts, it's limited to 10 people. So you just need to make sure that you're not expecting more than 10 folks to join your video call. So you can go back to do a quick demo of Google Hangouts before we answer questions. So Carol, do you want to actually go to your Gmail account? So Carol is just going to pull up her email account for us, and we can quickly see what, say, starting a new chat with someone on Hangouts would look like. And as Carol mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we're going to be doing another presentation next week where we talk more about what different platforms for audio and video calls how they can be used to sort of further your campaign work. So we can get more into that next week. So as you can see on the left bar here, we have Carol's existing chats with folks. So lots of different folks, and some of these are actually groups of up to, say, 6 or 7 people that are all working on the same project. Like we had a chat for our local environmental action conference. We could all stay on the same page. So right now she's going to press the little plus sign. You can see new conversation comes up. And she's going to actually start a new conversation with Ted because we are going to sort of demo what that looks like. So as you can see, we have podcasts at massclimateaction.net. She's sending Ted an invitation right now. And once Ted accepts, they'll be able to chat as they would, say, over text. I don't know, Carol, if you want to pull up maybe like an existing conversation. Yeah, so there I am. So you can see Carol and I use chat all the time to sort of stay in touch about what we're working on. And it's a really easy way to just make sure that we know what's going on, especially right now since we're working remotely, obviously. Oh yeah, and there's settings where you can say whether or not you want to, maybe I'm texting Carol a lot and she doesn't want to get notifications from me anymore, she can turn those off. Or you can even, if you, I think I might have, my screen is frozen, but you can also click in the upper, if you go back to the chat feature, you can click, exactly, you can click video, or you can create a group hangout. So if Carol wants to say add me, sure, add another person, she can do that easily. And if she wants to video call me, she can do that by just pressing the video icon. So that's a way to have a one-on-one video call. The same feature works when you're in a group chat. So you can actually invite everyone that's in the chat to join your call. And again, I know that's all kind of a lot of information quickly, but we are going to go in more depth about how to host remote virtual meetups next week.
So you can call or email Mish or Ted for individual questions later on, but we're going to start answering specific questions. The first question that was put in the chat is, I have trouble accessing the stuff I know that I have in Google Drive. If anyone wants to expand on that question, so we could kind of figure out where things might be.
So I will just say that one thing, and I don't remember whether I said this when I was going through Google Drive, but my experience is that it's really tempting to rely on the shared with me button in Google Drive, which I'll show you guys. I would not do that. I would actually organize your drive yourself. So what can be really tempting is to just have everything willy-nilly and not organize it and just kind of have it as it's shared with you. But it is really, you're going to find things much easier to find if you actually organize them in your own drive. And what I will do also actually right now is that I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So, of course, so this is one of these weird quirks about Google Drive is that you'll see in my recent stuff, there's the PowerPoint that we just made, or the Google Slides that we just made earlier, the notes doc that we made earlier, but not the folder. I don't know why that is, but it is. So, but if you look right here, here's my chapter leader webinar, right? So that's the folder that I made earlier for you guys. So there are a couple ways that I can move it. I can either, I can open it up, and then I can move it from here, move to, right? Or I could take it and I could drag it and drop it somewhere. But again, I would really encourage folks to think about organizing your drive rather than just relying on sort of those, recent buttons and the shared with me buttons and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you. So the next question is, if you are almost using all of your storage on Google Drive, how much does more storage cost? So for 100 gigabytes of storage on Google Drive is $2 a month. But another option is to see if there are any really big files in your Google Drive, such as a long video or things like that might be taking up a lot of storage. And if that can be stored on your computer, you can free up some of that storage on Google Drive. Yeah.
And that's a really great point about the video. And I just want to also emphasize that there is a trash can in your drive. And you can see that I have not emptied mine recently. So I would encourage, are folks having trouble with my video? My pre-conference call is saying my video is no good, so I apologize. But I would encourage folks to not be like me and empty your trash with some regularity, because sometimes we can find that there are lots of big folders or big documents or photos in there. The other thing to remember, to Misha's point, is that sometimes videos will take up a ton of space. Sometimes if you have a slideshow that has a lot of really nice pictures in it, that can take up a lot of space as well.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, can you use Google Slides in a Zoom room meeting? And that is yes. When you're in a Zoom meeting, we'll definitely go over this a lot more next week. But just really quickly, if you're in a Zoom meeting, in the middle of your screen, on the bottom, it'll say share, and you can just share your screen. So then you would show a slideshow, kind of how Carol is doing it right now, is we're just seeing her desktop, right? So you can do a presentation from your screen, and people will be able to see it on Zoom. There's one more question that we got during the presentation. Can you use the MCAN template for Google Slides, or how do you add a logo for your own group?
I can actually, I could just go ahead and show you guys how to add. Now I'm all embarrassed and I'm into my trash can and that's totally full. I'll show you guys how to, actually, you know what, let me open this slideshow that we started a minute ago. So there are a couple of ways to add a logo. So one would be, you can insert an image here, and generally speaking, my guess would be that you would want to upload it from your computer. It is handy, so we have in our drive, we have a folder of our logos. So some of them, are sort of taller than they are wide, and some are vice versa, and some are really small, and some are relatively big. So we have a logos folder in Drive that we can just add logos from. This is also where you would put pictures in. If, for instance, you wanted to take a photo, I don't know, of yourself right then, or of your cat or something, then you could take a picture with the camera and put it into the slideshow. Does that answer the question, Ted? So, and then we've got a question of where do you access a new folder and where is the disposal element to drop your trash? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to go to my trash. That's a great question. And of course, I am learning right alongside you right here. Let me see if I can. There we go. All right. So if you click on your trash folder and then you go to empty trash, that will go ahead and get rid of that for you. And then in terms of creating a new folder, it's that plus sign there on your left. So if you're just creating a folder from scratch, you do it right here. Or if you're uploading a folder from your computer, then you would do it in folder upload. But generally speaking, you're probably wanting to just do it that way. And it will encourage you to name it before you start using it. Other questions? Folks can feel free to unmute themselves. Dragging and dropping folders into a file, files into a folder. There are ways to do that. Let's see. So let me do that right now. So like, for instance, I can drag this and drop it into a folder, but and there's often a but with this kind of thing. You can't just drag an attachment off of an email, which I wish that they would have a way to do that, and they don't. So you have to, so actually, you know what? I'm going to show you guys how to, let me see if I can go into my email and show you how to save an attachment in Drive, because that is something that is useful to be able to do. Okay, so here we go. Here's an email that has several attachments. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and then I'm going to save some of the attachments to Drive. Okay, so we've got this meeting invitation, and you can see that I can either download it to my laptop or I can save it to my Drive. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to save it to your Drive. I'm going to click on that, and then I would always organize it right when you're saving it. So I'm going to put that, because it's a municipal aggregation meeting for Boston, I'm going to go into my folder. This is when you guys get to see the Russian doll of our various folders. So I'm going to go into my sort of nested folders in my Drive, and here's my community trace aggregation folder. And it's going to go into the Boston community trace aggregation folder in here, and I'm just going to say move here. Ta-da! It is now in my Drive, and it is in the specific folder that I chose.
Another helpful thing just to mention, if someone shares, say, a Word document with you in email, it's possible to then open it with Google Docs as well. Yes. Sometimes the formatting can be a little wonky, but for the most part, it'll transfer. Well, I think these are already all Google Docs.
Yeah, these are all, yep. But
it's a way to access.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super easy. And they've actually just streamlined that so that it's easier even than it used to be. Ted, Wade, you had a question about copy and paste. Was that for putting files into a folder? Thanks, Kimberly. Ted, if you should feel free to unmute yourself. Let me see if I can unmute people for them. Let's see. Oh, I've copied files from Word, etc., into Google Docs, and all the formatting gets jumbled. Is there a way to avoid that? Asks Fran. No, is the short answer. So now they'll have a thing where sometimes you will get a question if you want to keep the formatting or not, but it's an imperfect transfer sometimes, depending particularly on the age of the word that was used to create that document. So, yeah. It's there are prices for it being free, right?
Carol, Ted here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I don't have any questions. You're doing a marvelous job. So unless there's anything for me, I'm good.
Oh, and so that folks know, I'm just going to put it up again. But Ted has offered to help folks who are struggling with things. He's already done this with a couple of board members. If you have questions, and we'll go ahead and email out the slideshow as well as the recording. It'll take us till tomorrow to get the recording up onto our YouTube channel, but we'll send you the slideshow and the recording once it's up on the YouTube channel, so that folks know how to get in touch with Ted. And Judith, just quickly to answer your screenshot question during a presentation, it's the same way, and of course now I'm on a MacBook, which I'm not really used to, but it's the same way that you would take a screenshot for anything, which is usually, I think it's F8 with a Mac, with a PC. Is there anybody who's on a PC who can confirm that for me?
I am.
It's usually like function, and then it's either F6 or F8, I think, usually.
I never do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Lost all my work skills.
Yeah.
I can say for other folks using Mac, it's Shift-Command-4 will allow you to take a screenshot of part of the screen, so you can drag part of the screen you want to capture.
All right, so we've got 2 minutes left. It looks like maybe my internet is being funky again because I'm losing almost everybody's webcam. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe we should go ahead and get done a little bit ahead of time.
Next meeting is when?
I'm sorry, what's that?
When is the next meeting? Next week when?
Yeah, so we'll send out an email about it. I think it'll probably be, again, Tuesday at noon, because we had pretty good turnout today, and so I assume it's a time that works for folks. But we will send you an email, and let Mish know if there are particular things about these platforms that you'd like us to cover. I will say that it's going to be, we'll sort of go through the pros and cons of each of them and costs and benefits of each of them, but we're not going to be super sophisticated about it. We hope to be brushed up enough to bring you breakout rooms in all of the different platforms that do that, but that may be the extent of our ability. So keep your expectations reasonable.
We're all on a learning curve.
All right. I know, we're all on a learning curve. Yep. So hang in there, you guys. Stay physically distant and socially close. And we'll talk to you guys next week, if not before.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Do that. I do that.